I'm Ian, and I'm going to share with you something that happened a few months ago, which is an example of how God shows his love towards us. So at the end of June, my wife Mary had severe stomach pains, and an ambulance came and rushed her into A&E up at St Helier. And after doing numerous tests, they discovered that there was a blockage in her stomach and she would need to have an operation the following day. So she had the operation and then had 2 days in intensive care and was then back on one of the ordinary wards to attempt to make a recovery. And after a few days, she found she wasn't sleeping very well at nights, and she asked one of the night nurses that she thought might be a Christian from the way she was going about her work, if she would read the Bible for her. So the nurse asked, "What passage would you like me to read?" Mary said, "You choose one for me." And the nurse chose to read Psalm 91, which begins with these words: "Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust." And those words Mary found very helpful, and she was able to get to sleep that night. Unfortunately, the recovery didn't go all that well, and a few days later she died in the hospital. The day before her funeral, I went into the chapel of rest and saw her body laid out in the coffin, and she was looking very peaceful, and they had dressed her in her favourite kilt. She's Scottish, you will understand. And yes, all seemed prepared for the following day. And before I left, I decided to read something from the Bible. And thinking back to what had happened in the hospital, it seemed like Psalm 91 would be appropriate. So I read that there in the chapel of rest and said a prayer before finding my way home. So the next morning was the day of the funeral, and I was sat in the front room just gathering my thoughts, and I received a text message from one of my close friends in the church. And he said, "Ian, I've been reading the Bible this morning, and I've been reading Psalm 91. And I really feel that God is saying strongly to me that this psalm means something special for you today. So I'm sending this message to you, encouraging you to read Psalm 91. When I heard those words, when I read those words on the text message, I just couldn't believe it. It's not just coincidence when things like this happen. I could see God's hand at work in this. And so I knew from that everything was going to be okay on that day of the funeral, and so it proved to be. So I share this with you because I believe that whenever we're going through difficult times, God can find a particular way of showing his love and his care to us. That was my experience, and I believe it can be yours as well. Thank you for listening.